Hi, I'm James. I'm 47 years old, living in Los Angeles, California. In March of this year, 2015, I was diagnosed with an acoustic neuroma, about 2.8 centimeters. I had surgery to remove the acoustic neuroma at the end of June of this year, and today is day 44 post-op. Those who have just gotten diagnosed or who have just gone through the surgery and are in recovery. This is my journey, and hope it helps. I did not experience a lot of extreme symptoms. There were more knick-knacky type of symptoms. For example, I had lost a little bit of sensation on the left side of my face, had lost a little bit of sensation on the left side of my tongue. It always felt as if the tongue was perpetually burnt when you have hot soup. That's kind of what it felt like. But really, other than that, I did not experience much in the way of balance and coordination issues. As an athlete, certainly I could sense that it wasn't 100%, but it was at the point where, again, I chalked it up to middle age. I didn't think there was anything wrong. But ultimately, when I lost a little bit of hearing in my left ear, that's when it triggered a lot of different tests, the audiogram and MRI, and really it was the MRI that ultimately revealed that I had an acoustic neuroma. When I went to see my otolaryngologist, or the ear, nose, throat doctor, initially he, of course, went through the whole protocol, examined my ear, make sure there wasn't anything wrong mechanically with my ear. After that was ruled out, I went to get an audiogram to basically establish a baseline in terms of the hearing. Then he put me on a tapered 2-week medication. It was some steroids to see perhaps if the ear nerve had been inflamed, that perhaps that might have been the cause of the hearing loss. So 2 weeks came and went, had another audiogram, and really showed that there was no difference. At that point, again, the MRI was ordered, and a couple of days later, that's when it was revealed that I had an acoustic neuroma. I think anyone who's ever done an MRI or ever gone through an MRI knows that it can be somewhat claustrophobic. You're basically lying down in a chamber. But there are a number of different things nowadays that they do to try to make you feel a little more comfortable. But it is loud. I was there for about 45 minutes as they took a lot of different images. But again, it wasn't that uncomfortable. My doctor got the results of the MRI literally within 24 to 48 hours. I received a phone call from my otolaryngologist within a day or two of the MRI. As far as hearing the news for the first time, the initial reaction was shock and disbelief. When the first question out of your doctor is, "You're not driving, are you?" That's never a good question to be asked. But the bottom line is, it is what it is. I went through, as you can imagine, the entire spectrum of emotions. First the shock and disbelief, then the "oh, why me?" and then a little bit of anger, and then really acceptance. And I think for anyone, the sooner you can get to that point where, okay, this is what it is, this is what I have. Now let's actually try to wrap our arms around it, do the research, and see what we can do. The way my family reacted to the news was, again, I think it took them a while to kind of come to terms with it. They really didn't know what it was. So I had to explain what it was. And fortunately, I have a brother who is a physician, so he also helped in explaining what it was. There's a lot of data online. You have to filter through a lot of what's out there. And I think one of the things that I found very helpful about researching acoustic neuroma, a lot of the different sites that I was on, anausa.org, which is a nonprofit, it's the Acoustic Neuroma Association. There are a lot of resources available. What I found specifically on that site was not only good information about acoustic neuromas, but there was access to support groups, forums, and just different ways to gather information and to try to get different perspectives about dealing with and going through this acoustic neuroma journey. So that was very helpful. After I was diagnosed by my otolaryngologist, Dr. Ted Shen in Pasadena, he referred me to Dr. Rick Friedman. After doing my homework, I realized he's actually one of the top in his field. Acoustic neuromas is actually what he specializes in, and he has performed hundreds of acoustic neuroma surgeries. So I felt I would be in pretty good hands. That here was someone who had done a number of these surgeries. So I went to see Dr. Friedman and felt very comfortable with the consultation. Felt very comfortable with him. He explained what it was. He explained the potential course of action, the various choices or options I had with regards to surgery and things of that nature. So it was again just adding another piece of information to the puzzle. So after meeting with Dr. Friedman, I learned that he is part of a surgical team. He and Dr. Stephen Giannotta collaborate on removing acoustic neuromas. They basically perform the surgeries together. So I met with Dr. Stephen Giannotta as well. And again, doing my research on Dr. Giannotta, I realized again he is also one of the top in his field. And so I felt I was in good hands. Maybe my situation is a little bit different than most because I had essentially 3.5 months from the time I was diagnosed to actually having the surgery. And that was actually all on me. I wanted to have enough time to get my arms around what an acoustic neuroma was and really deal with it the way that I wanted to deal with it. Again, the fortunate thing for me was the fact that I was not experiencing a lot of extreme symptoms. So I felt that I could wait and take my time, knowing full well that I wanted it out. But I took my time and continued to exercise, continued to take care of myself, and just again try to go into surgery with a good attitude. I think anytime you hear the word tumor, regardless of benign or malignant, your brain goes off in 50 different directions. When I first started doing the research on acoustic neuromas to try to get my arms around it, my primary concern upon the first few days of reading and researching was, oh my gosh, am I going to be the same post-surgery? Am I going to be able to walk a straight line? Am I going to be able to have my hearing preserved? Am I going to be able to continue to play tennis? It was a lot of different things. I sort of fluctuated between being concerned about my normal everyday life functions to perhaps maybe even being a little greedy and thinking about tennis and other activities, beyond just the normal everyday functions. Everyone is different with regards to recovery period, and everyone comes to surgery a little bit different, right? I'm sure every physician will tell you that it really depends on your condition going in and other factors and how where the tumor is and what they're able to do once they go in to remove it. But with regards to my initial consults with Dr. Friedman and Dr. Giannotta, they both said, if we can get it all, then at the end of it, you'll have to work hard to get back to where you were pre-surgery in terms of balance, coordination, etc. my primary concern was after surgery, how much impact was there really going to be on my balance and my coordination? If I was unable to have my hearing preserved in my left ear, how was I going to deal with single-sided deafness? How was I going to adjust to that, etc.? So a lot of questions, but again, it's one of those things where you just have to accept that this is what's coming and figure out a way to deal with it. From the time I was diagnosed until the time I had surgery, maybe it was a psychological thing because I was more aware of these symptoms, but I felt as if my symptoms actually did intensify a little bit. In particular, the numbness, or the lack of sensation, I should say, on the left side of my face and again on the left side of my tongue. I felt that started to get perhaps a little bit more intense in the weeks leading up to the surgery. In addition, the ringing of the ear, especially my left ear, actually intensified, became more frequent between the time I was diagnosed and the surgery. But prior to diagnosis, it was, again, very, very mild. One of the great things that the Acoustic Neuroma Center at USC offered is a program where you get contacted by a patient navigator. In this case, she herself is an acoustic neuroma patient. She had hers out several years ago. So it was great to be able to talk to someone who had gone through this. And they also had a support group where I was able to meet other acoustic neuroma patients, some that had their surgeries as recent as 7 or 10 days prior to that actual meeting, and others that who were scheduled to go into surgery, like myself at that time. And it's good to hear the stories. It's good to see how people are doing post-op. Once I set the surgery date, there's some preparation that needs to go on to make sure that post-surgery you've got the proper support. I had the proper support. Things were set up either at home or at my parents' place, et cetera, for recovery. So in my case, I actually spent 2 weeks after surgery at my parents' house because they have a one-story house and their shower is a walk-in shower versus having to step over a tub to get to the shower, things like that. At the end of the day, it was really a lot of common sense type of things. I wanted to make sure that I was in an environment where I had people around me in the event needed some assistance, and also didn't want to put myself in a situation where I was forced to make certain movements, et cetera, that I may not have been ready for post-surgery. The days leading up to the surgery, I wasn't nervous because I had so much time between the diagnosis and the actual surgery date. So I was ready for it. Honestly, probably 2-3 weeks leading up to the surgery, my attitude was bring it on. I had already gone through the entire spectrum of emotions, and I had already come to accept the fact that this is going to happen. There's going to be a new normal. The surgery, I was told, was approximately 4.5 hours. And I spent 2 days, 48 hours in the hospital. I was one of the lucky ones. The surgery went very smoothly. I've shared this with a number of people that as soon as I woke up after the surgery, even though I was a little groggy and my head felt a little heavy, I knew, because my body felt strong, I knew that if I wanted to, I could probably swing over to the side of the bed, stand up and walk to the bathroom. That is the greatest feeling in the world when you've just had brain surgery. And of course, they wouldn't allow me to do that because I was hooked up to IVs and a catheter. But come 6 a.m. the next morning, that's exactly what I did. After I was unhooked, I flipped over to the side of the bed and stood up, walked over to the bathroom by myself, no assistance, and then walked back, sat in the chair. And from that point forward, I was ready to go. The day after surgery, what they typically like you to do is they try to get you out of bed, at a minimum, to try to get you to sit up on the side of the bed to see if you can sit up and maybe stand and even walk a little bit. because the bottom line is your recovery isn't going to happen magically. You've got to put your effort into it, and the sooner they can get you up and out of bed, even if it's just a stand, the better. So the next morning, the physical therapist came, and I stood up, walked up and down the hallway without assistance, up and down a flight of stairs. I was able to stand on one leg, balanced for 30 seconds, etc. So I'm very fortunate. I feel like I did not experience a lot of the post-op effects for surgery like this. I felt a little bit of nausea, probably for a couple of hours, and I'm thinking that was probably the anesthesia just going about its normal course and wearing out. But I had no headaches, I had no dizziness, and I really was in no pain. Was there a little bit of discomfort from just the head being a little bit heavy at times? Sure. And also, as part of the surgical procedure, they had to remove a little bit of fat from my belly so that they could seal the surgical area in my cranium. So there was a little bit of discomfort from the incision they made in my belly to get the fat. Quite frankly, if anything, that probably caused me more discomfort than the actual drilling of the hole in my skull. But it's all good. I was never in pain. Never took a painkiller leaving the hospital. I did take a little bit of Advil, but that was pretty much it. One thing I did experience was I did have a little bit of facial weakness post-surgery, but again, where I essentially could not fully close my left eyelid, but that's been improving every week since surgery. I'm currently in week number 7 post-surgery, and facial weakness is practically recovered. My first 2-3 weeks after being discharged and recuperating at my parents' house, really it's just rest. And for someone who's a type A like myself, I was going stir crazy in the house. At the end of the day, sleep and rest are really what you need. Of course, every opportunity in between, you should try to do your vestibular exercises, whether that is holding out one finger and trying to stay focused while moving your head up and down or sideways, whether it's doing the balancing exercises, and so forth. Again, you have to do what you can to try to improve and expedite your recovery. As far as having single-sided deafness as a result of the surgery, I'm still adjusting. This is, again, day 44. And it's probably going to take some time. I elected not to have the hearing implant simply because I just want to see how I adjust to this, how I adjust to single-sided deafness. I can tell you that the first couple of weeks, it was very difficult walking into a crowded or noisy area, whether it's the mall, a coffee shop, a restaurant, because the brain is trying to compensate for only being able to hear out of one side. And honestly, everything just felt loud, and it was difficult to differentiate noises. It just felt like one big noise. But over the past 3-4 weeks, it's gotten a lot better. I'm now able to, I guess, filter a little bit from that standpoint of, especially when people are talking to me in a restaurant or a coffee shop where it may be a little noisy. I'm hearing less of the background noise, so to speak, and I'm able to hear more of the person who's actually speaking with me. A good day to me is essentially where I feel like I did before the surgery. Where there were, if I had no symptoms, nothing, where I'm able to do everything just appears, quote, normal. The so-called not so good days are days where, I'm struggling a little bit in terms of, maybe my head feels a little heavy, maybe my peripheral vision is not as sharp as it was the day before. Little things. Maybe I slept on the wrong side, maybe I slept on my surgical side, and maybe I've got a little swelling in the eye, and little things like that. But again, nothing that is debilitating. nothing that nothing that prevents me from doing the everyday things. As far as follow-ups are concerned, on my 1-year anniversary of the surgery, I will have to get another image, another MRI, just to see if anything's growing back. My surgery was very successful in the sense they got everything. They took out the tumor. They didn't leave any part of it. Really, at this point, it's just maintenance and just checking to see whether anything is growing back. But so far, so good. Be prepared to work hard for your recovery, because again, your recovery is not going to happen magically. You've got to work hard, and that means during the times when you're not sleeping, try to sit up, try to stand up, try to walk around. Do what you can to just keep yourself stimulated and active. Do the vestibular exercises constantly until you're, quote, back to normal. Get back to a point where you can function regularly. Be prepared, because even for myself, where I experienced very few after effects of the surgery, it still takes a lot of work to get to this point. Stepping on a tennis court for the first time, the first 15-20 minutes, I felt like I was on another planet. It's one thing to do your exercises when you're standing still or walking at a leisurely pace. It's another thing when your head is moving left and right, trying to track a tennis ball. And at the same time, your body is trying to move to hit the ball. Very different. And I realized after that first session, 23 days post-op on the tennis court, that I had a lot of work to do. And so it's just keep at it. 6.5 weeks now post-surgery. I have had my follow-ups with Dr. Friedman and Dr. Giannotta, really just to see how I was doing post-op. And again, I feel very fortunate because I'm doing very well. In fact, I feel I've been able to get back to what I was doing before sooner than later. My own personal timetable, as aggressive as it may have seemed at the time pre-op, was I was hoping to be back on a tennis court sometime in September, October. I stepped back out on a tennis court day 23. So again, obviously not going full bore as I used to, but nevertheless, just to be out there and to be able to move around and not feel really any effects, balance and coordination-wise, that was a really great thing. Do your homework. Get yourself educated on what it is so that you understand what it is that's inside your head. Understand what can be done about it. Find the right people. Do your research. Find the right physicians for you. I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself from that standpoint. The second piece of advice, try to go in with a positive attitude. At the end of the day, the only things you can control are those things that are within your control, which is pre-op and post-op. Everything else, the actual surgery itself is out of your hands. For myself, as I've said to my wonderful surgeons, all I did was show up. And show up with a good attitude. Everything pre-op and post-op, I did what I felt I could to best prepare myself for a good outcome. And again, so far so good. I'm very thankful to my surgeons, Dr. Rick Friedman and Dr. Stephen Giannotta at USC. This is a major surgery, and it's obvious why these two gentlemen are at the top of their field. Everything went really smoothly. The folks at Keck Hospital took really good care of me. I'd also like to thank Dr. Ted Shen in Pasadena, who is my otolaryngologist. He convinced me to get the MRI. I actually was pretty stubborn about really doing anything because I wasn't really experiencing too many symptoms, and I thought it would just pass. But something about what he said convinced me to go get the MRI, and I'm really thankful that I did.